welcome back, guys. I'm here on the call again with Yanks, and today we are here for the Phyrexia All Will Be One set review for red. We'll be rating all the red cards between 1 and 5 in how we think they will perform in a average limited deck. Kind of both draft and sealed, and again, average, not a highly synergistic deck, not like full of bombs or anything like that. If you missed our other colors, I know the introduction white, blue, and black are already up. If you guys want to go check them out, make sure you do so. And don't forget to leave us some comments and let us know what you think of the set. So, you ready to go, Yanks?
All set.
All right, let's go ahead and jump right in with the card All Will Be One. This better be a good card because that's a dope name. We got 5 mana for an enchantment that says whenever you put 1 or more counters on a permanent or a player, All Will Be One deals that much damage to target opponent. Target creature an opponent controls or a planeswalker they control. So, okay, so you deal one poison counter with a toxic creature, you get to deal 1 damage to a creature or to their face or whatever. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, normally I see like 5 mana mythic enchantment, and I almost always say, yeah, there's no chance this is ever seeing limited play. Because it's some sort of weird constructed piece. But I actually think this could, particularly because it counts
Proliferate.
Well, proliferate, but also like if the cards that come in with 4 oil counters, that deals 4. Planeswalkers come in with whatever. I know it's mythics and rares, but one of those comes in, that's going to deal 5, 6, whatever.
When it says comes into play with that many counters on it, does that count as putting the counters on them?
It does, and they specifically note that in the release notes. I went to go check before we did this because I wasn't sure.
Because that wording is a little strange, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You're right, and there are a lot of cards that come into play with 3 or 4 oil counters on them, like just the scrying 03 Dork comes into play with 3 counters on it.
Yeah.
There's also a ton of cards like Drake that whenever you cast a non-creature spell or an instant or sorcery, you get a oil counter. So there are like self-generating counters. There's a ton of proliferate. This actually might be really cool.
Yeah, the fact that it's not that hard to do this in chunks. Like, I'm happier to be able to do this for 3 or 4 and then not do it for a couple turns than just do it for like 1, 1, 1. Because you can actually kill things, bigger things.
Yeah. Now, the wording on this says 1 or more counters on a permanent or a player, you do that much. So the interesting thing is if you proliferate here and you put 1 counter on a bunch of things, I think you can break those counters up however you want and shoot 1 point of damage across the table however you please. So like kill your X1, kill 2 points to your X2, 3 points to your face.
I would assume that's right. They do note in the release notes that if you attack with multiple toxic creatures, they are all considered the same trigger.
Because the counters are going on to the player.
Oh, that's right. It's all to one place. That makes sense. Yeah.
Exactly. So you're putting 4 counters onto one place. So that would be 4 points of damage to one place.
Yes,
but if you're proliferating like oil counters on 4 things, then you get 4 individual pings, I think.
That's how I would read it too.
So that's a neat little mechanic too. Now I will say that this is a very highly synergistic card. So for our rating system, the average deck isn't going to get a ton of value out of this. But there's going to be a dope deck that has this, and that deck can take a lot of forms with proliferate or toxic or, all sorts of crazy cool things.
Yeah, I mean, I got to figure I'm probably pretty happy if I can get. I mean, it's reasonable if I can get 4 to 5. If I can get 5 damage, probably it's 5 mana, deal 5. We play. We're not excited about it, but we play it. And then if you can do more than that, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I can't imagine I have anything that's putting 5 counters on one thing at a time, super regular, like at all, really. So
agreed.
So that's not really happening. You've got to get 5 individual triggers, which sometimes are worth more, but if they're over time, then they don't really deal with any sort of answer. So yeah, I think for me to run this, I would want a fair amount of synergy, especially in the form of proliferate to like kind of keep those things adding up. And also like you said, the oil counters, things that ETB with 2+ oil counters.
Definitely.
Rating wise, I mean, I think this is like probably a 1-5 in just like a generic deck, but then this will probably play like a 3-5 in a very heavy deck.
Yeah, this feels like it's a split card to me. It's like a one 5 I like, and then I might even put it as a 4 on the top end.
Yeah,
Because this is probably just the best card in your deck.
I think if you have the build around and it's a good version of it, this is going to play insanely well, and you're going to hope you draw it every time for sure. But in like, what about the average deck that is built like this? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's going to depend, like a lot of these sort of build arounds, on if you draw it first or after.
Yeah.
Which is, the downside to these cards.
Absolutely. All right, so we got a split rating card there. It looks like Yanks and I are about a half point off on the top end.
The key question with this card, though, is does this count as one of the cards where the name is the same as a set?
Is that a thing? I didn't know that was a thing we were
There,
counting.
there are 18 cards that in Magic share the name with the set. And is this 19? Because the set, I think, is technically Phyrexia, all will be one.
I didn't know that was a thing we noted or cared about, so I'm gonna
It's just it's just random trivia.
I'm gonna say yes. Because it's sort of like Star Wars, and you say the name of the thing that precedes it, and that's the name of the episode.
Sure. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
There's like The Last Jedi.
Yeah, the only one you really call Star Wars is A New Hope.
But they are all kind of named Star Wars, right?
Agreed. They are all named that way, yeah.
Yeah. So to me, that's what this is. Phyrexia is the like Star Wars label, and then this is the All Will Be One episode.
Okay. I was just curious on your take on that.
All right. Awaken the Sleeper, 4 mana for a sorcery. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap it. It gains haste until end of turn. If it's equipped, you may destroy all equipments attached to this creature. That's kind of unique with how much for Mirrodin there is in the set. You're actually might get something with this, but again, I'm really not super interested in playing this unless I've got those free sack outlets, and we did see quite a few of them, so I think it would be kind of cool. But this is a tad bit on the expensive side.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that you have to destroy the equipment to, like on resolution, you don't get to use it in the attack. That being said, that's not going to come up that often.
And even if that's the case, I'm still probably happy killing it as opposed to giving it back
to
them.
Oh, for sure.
So I think this card is okay. There's, there are these like hyper aggressive decks where they'll sometimes run a steel card as like their top end to like finish the job, but those are far and few between. The average deck is not, and the average format are not happy to run this in any deck really. So it seems like a 1.5.
Yeah, just how good is that red-black sacrifice deck?
Yeah, and the answer is usually they're not good. We just all have D&D like flashback
definitely
PTSD. So, I mean, now I'm never going to say it's not good. We're just going to have to find out.
Yeah.
So for now, we'll say a 1.5.
Agreed.
So now we've got Axiom Engraver.
Yeah, Axiom.
Axiom Engraver. 2 mana for a 1/3 Phyrexian wizard. When it enters the battlefield with 2 oil counters, do 2 damage. I love it. You can tap, remove an oil counter, discard, and draw. Okay, you get 2 loots for 2 rummages. 2 rummages for 2 mana for a 1/3 body. I think that's moderately playable.
Yeah, a lot of times we'll see ones you can use more than that, but they usually have a mana cost. So trade-off is free, or they cost more than 2. So I'm okay with the trade-off.
Yeah, and there are ways to add oil counters and proliferate. Yep. So I think that's going to be a kind of common thing. And after seeing black, I was really impressed with how much proliferate was in there. And there's plenty in blue. And I'm sure they're going to see a couple of cards here and there. So I could see this getting a little extra value as well.
Yeah, I was also impressed with, like you said, how much proliferate was in black. I was expecting a ton in blue-green and not as much in black as we had.
Yeah. Rating-wise, maybe a 2?
It's like a 2, yeah.
All right. Barbed Batterfist, 2 mana for a artifact equipment that says for Mirrodin comes into play with a 2/2 red rebel, and you can equip this for free, and it gets +1 -1, and it has an equip cost of 0. So it's a 2 mana 3/1 that can carry over its buff. I mean,
Hmm.
it's a weird one, but I'm the equipped is cheap. It's a decent creature. It's a 3/1 for 2 is like our filler, and I guess it kind of helps trade up later.
Yeah, I mean, this goes in exactly one deck, right? Red white. Um, Wants to be aggressive. Just equipment can be relevant, but you're playing a lot of 2/2s or that you want to turn into 3/1s because they're probably going to trade off anyway, but they become more threatening as 3 power.
Did did blue have any of the equipments that like helped other equipments as well, or was that only in white that we saw?
Believe it was only in white,
I thought so. Like
but
there was that one really good white one,
yeah,
but I don't think this was it. So rating
yeah,
wise, I'm thinking this is a 2.
yeah. I
It's
think
a
it's a
filler
2.
card.
Yeah, I'll play a 3. I'll play a 2 mana 3/1 in any deck if I have to. I'm not that upset about it.
Yeah. And then the little hanging around equipment maybe comes in handy.
Agreed.
All right, Bladecraft Aspirant, 3 mana for a 2/3 with Menace. Equipment spells you cast cost 1 less, and activated abilities of equipments you control cost 1 less to activate as well. That target this creature. So you can equip it for cheap, and you can play the equipments moderately cheap as well. So that's neat. On its own, though, in the average deck that's not really an equipment theme, high synergy deck, this is 3 mana Menace 2/3. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. There seemed to be enough equipment that there's a reasonable chance you'll get some bonuses even outside of red white.
Yep. Yeah, I think like, the equipment seems solid enough to where any deck could run 1 or 2 equipment just as a curve filler. And there are some valuable equipments that are good enough on their own. So I think this card is solid. If it's no equipment deck, I'm still probably okay to play this as just a solid 2. It's crazy how good
Yep.
the 2s are getting.
Agreed.
When we started this, I mean, this would be like a 2/5 easy, but yeah, it's getting tough out there.
Power creep is real.
Blazing Crescendo, 2 mana for an instant. Target creature gets +3/+1 until end of turn. Exile the top card of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. Wow, so it's like a little mini like combat trick. They don't have first strike or trample on it like they usually do, but this way it redraws itself. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, and I like that they did it this way instead of just turning it into a cantrip with draw a card, because that's not Red's thing. We've seen red cards that do that, but I like it better that it's more thematic for red.
Yeah, this is it's a mix between a pump spell and the like light up the stage type effects. I think that's neat. I really like the card. I mean, that said, I don't know how much 3/1 will do without first strike or trample, but I'm still optimistic. Probably gonna be a 2 for me.
Yeah, I think it's a 2. The concern with +3/+1 obviously is that it doesn't win combat a lot of times. But if you're using this to trade up, even though you're 2 for 1 and you get the card back, so it's not as bad as it normally would be.
It could also just be that you have one of those really aggressive decks where you're just okay to cast this, hit them for 3, and cantrip
Yeah,
itself because you're being so aggressive that you just want to put in 2 extras of these, and you're going so wide that the second one is just going to kill them based on whatever they don't block.
yeah, it's pretty good in the casting non-creature spells triggers in blue red too.
Yeah, absolutely. Fuels itself back up. So this is going to be a 2. A lot of decks easy cut, but some decks I'm pretty happy to run one of these. It'll be pretty neat to see how it plays out. All right, I'll let you take this one.
Cacophony Scamp. It's red for a 1/1 Phyrexian Goblin Warrior. Whenever this deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice it. If you do, proliferate. And when this dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. So 1 mana 1/1s are need to be doing something to justify being in your deck. This does a decent amount, especially if you have equipment.
Why do you need equipment?
Well, because you
Just to
can
pump
make
up
it
its power.
to pump up its power, yeah.
Okay, I was also thinking like the equipment that gives it flying, like, and there's a couple other little things. Maybe there's an equipment that does first strike. You can help get in the extra proliferate triggers as well.
Yep.
So maybe that's nice. That said, I mean, the average deck is probably not going to be able to utilize the proliferate all that well. And it's probably going to do 1 damage when it dies. I don't know that I'm all that interested in this in a generic deck.
No, I probably only want this in the heavy equipment deck or the
Spells?
heavy spells oil counter deck.
Yeah. It's great in that, but yeah, the average, like, Gruul or, uh, well, maybe Rakdos, because you can sack it and get a dedicated ping on target, but yeah, kind of medium. I guess so it's probably good in like half the colors because we just listed red. We listed red is it Rakdos. So I
Yep.
mean it's probably fine in most
Yeah.
decks.
Yeah, it's probably Gruul is where it's worst.
Agreed. So rating wise, 2?
Still, yeah, a 2, which is relatively high for a 1 mana 1/1.
All right, we've got Capricious Hellraiser, 3 red, red, red for a Phyrexian dragon. It's a 4/4. This spell costs 3 less to cast if you have 9 or more cards in your graveyard. It has flying. When it enters the battlefield, exile 3 cards at random from your graveyard. Choose a non creature, non land card from among them and copy it. You may cast a copy without paying its mana cost. Interesting.
Hmm.
3 cards at
Not.
random. That's interesting.
Yep, a non-creature, non-land. There's probably not many non. There's probably not many lands in your graveyard, so you're getting access to like 30 to 40% of your graveyard.
Yeah. So this is probably worse in like Rakdos and like probably really good in Is It?
Yeah, it's probably great. And is it maybe okay in Rakdos? Probably pretty bad in Gruul and Boros. I mean, not bad. It's still a 4/4 flyer, but
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not arguing we're ever not
yeah,
playing this
of course. Yeah, of course.
necessarily, but like when is this a 4 and when is this a 5?
Of course.
um Either way, I mean, let's just call this it's hard to cast. It is very, very hard to cast. I mean, now if you have 9 cards in your graveyard, you can cast it for 3, but at 9 cards in your graveyard, casting it for 6 is really not that difficult either. Um Takes a long time to get 9 cards in your graveyard unless you're self-milling somehow.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're self-milling, you're going to end up with some lands and stuff. Some lands in your graveyard you normally wouldn't have, and you don't want to exile them.
Yeah, and this doesn't have haste or anything. So honestly, it's like not a home run in any way. So I mean, let's
No,
call this a. I'm hesitant to even give it a 4, to be honest.
I wouldn't. I think this is a 3. It's probably a 4 in the spells deck,
Yeah,
but it's the 3 otherwise. I think it's just an overcosted 4/4 flyer.
exile 3 cards at random. Choose any non-creature, non-land card from among them. So if you hit multiple targets, it's got a high ceiling because if you hit 2 non-creature,
Yes.
non-lands, you can like cast them both. So that's really cool.
No,
It's not like
you can only choose one.
oh, choose a non-creature, non-land. Okay. Well, at least you could choose. At least it's
Yeah,
not
you
like
get the better.
random. Yeah. Yeah, this is probably like a 3. It's so hard to cast.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Um let's call this a 3, maybe a 4. In exactly is it and nothing else.
Yep.
Chimney Rabble. We've got 4 uh 4 mana for a 3/3 with haste. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 Phyrexian Goblin creature token. 4 mana is basically a 3/3 that comes into play with 4/4 with a power. I think that's
Yeah.
okay. It's like a
Yeah.
2.
Yeah. 3 of the power has haste. It's probably pretty good in red black because you get something you don't mind sacrificing. But yeah, it's probably right around a 2.
All right. Now we've got Churning Reservoir. We've got red and an artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, put an oil counter on another target non-token artifact or creature you control. Ooh, so that's a neat way to generate more oil counters on our other things. Then you can pay 2, tap, create a 1/1 Phyrexian Goblin creature token, activate only if an oil counter was removed from a permanent. You control this turn, or a permanent with an oil counter was put into a graveyard. Interesting.
Huh.
So it kind of
So
does two things.
yeah, and I guess that ability makes it more relevant to put oil counters on random things that can't use them.
Yes, so when those things die, you can make a goblin. But it also
Yeah.
just it just pays you off on both sides. Like you put your oil counter on your O3 scryer. You scry, you get to make a goblin.
Yes. Yeah. I'm trying to. How do you think that reading first line read non-token artifact? Is that non-token for both artifacts or creatures, or just non-token artifacts?
Put an oil counter on another target non-token artifact or creature. What was your question?
Does it have to be non-token creatures?
Yeah, that wording is a little awkward. It says non-token artifact or target creature. I'm gonna say no. I'm guessing the reason it's worded that way is to like avoid people from like throwing mites under the bus and activating.
Yeah, or in older formats, putting this on like treasures that you can always sacrifice. Okay, I'm curious. And there's nothing in the release notes on it, so
Although the 1/1 is also not an artifact. So I would think that if that was the case, that clause would be there to prevent you from putting it on the goblins and re-triggering them.
yeah, that also makes sense.
But they're not artifacts, so you technically could do that.
Unless the non-token applied to both artifact and creature.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know, honestly. It's not I don't think it makes a huge difference in grading the card. I was just wondering.
Yeah, it is definitely unique. Being able to put the counters on the 1/1s that you then throw under buses is pretty neat, but
Yeah,
hopefully we have more better oil synergies for that if we're looking at
for
this
sure.
card. So let's go ahead and I mean, if you want oil counters, great. If not, no. Seems like a split
Yeah.
card to me. It's like a 1/2/5?
2/5? Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. Dragon Wing Glider, 5 mana for a rare equipment that says for Mirrodin. Create a 2/2 and equip it for free. Equip creature gets +2/+2 and flying and haste. So it makes a 4/4 flying haster for 5 mana. And then it equips 5. It's an expensive equip, but it's got a great ability to go with it.
I am not using that glider. That thing does not look safe.
Oh, I thought you were saying you were not going to play it. I was like,
Oh no.
what is wrong with you?
No, I will definitely play this card, but I'm not wearing that glider or using it.
Yes. I think this card is fantastic.
Yeah. Exactly what you want. It's on rate to get the 4/4 flying haste to begin with, and it's got great mana sink. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this card's fantastic. Rating wise, I think this is 4/4 haste that gets re-equipped. This feels strong to me. This feels like a 4.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, awesome. Moving right along. These are a lot more straightforward than the like black was a little tough, I think, to rate.
Yeah. Red smash things.
Yeah, red smash thing. Exuberant Fuseling, Phyrexian Goblin Warrior. It's an 0/1 with trample. It gets +1/+0 for each oil counter on it. Okay. When it enters the battlefield, and whenever another creature or artifact you control is put into a graveyard, put an oil counter on this. Okay, so it comes into play as a 1/1.
Yeah,
This is
it's. I'm just. I love the way they designed this card because you could have just made it a 1/1 and not given it the counter, but by putting it on there, you get the proliferate train started and things like that.
well, if you make it a 1/1 and you don't put the counter on it, then there's no way for it to get bigger on its own. I guess if you leave the other text of another
The other,
artifact
yeah,
leaving.
Yeah, if you left the second part on it, but
That might
this
not be
way,
strong enough.
yeah, I think it probably isn't. It's something like that seems really small that makes a big difference on the card.
Rating wise, I mean, I think it's got some good synergy options.
Yeah, just feels kind of low power.
Agreed. One deck will really like this. It feels like that little 1/2 sacrifice goblin that we had in the last set,
Oh yeah.
where it was like, it was perfectly fine. It performed very well in some decks, and it was also just like very cuttable and everything else.
Yeah, I can definitely see that here.
Rating wise, 152. It's like a
Yeah,
split.
it's like exactly, in which is kind of lame, right? Because it's never even that great. There's just
Yeah,
a deck that will play it.
absolutely. Forge Hammer Centurion. We've got a 3 mana 3/2 Phyrexian Warrior. When another creature or artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put an oil counter on this. Whenever it attacks, you may remove 2 oil counters from it. If you do, target creature cannot block this turn. It's just a vanilla creature that can maybe sometimes not make something block, but I feel like there's a lot of creatures in this set. It's pretty creature focused. So I think something else will just block this and you will then not do your shenanigans anymore.
Yeah, 2 oil counters just seems like a lot for a pretty small ability.
And you can't do it multiple times either, so you can't even use it
Yeah.
as like a big finisher or anything.
Yeah.
So, it's a 2. It's like yeah, I think it's like a 2.
Yeah.
One of the weaker of the 2s.
Agreed.
Free from Flesh, 1 mana for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Put 2 oil counters on it. That's dope. Oh, my Trawler Drake. Oh.
It's +1 mana, +4/+4.
I'm just getting all hot and bothered just thinking about it. Yes, I will draft this deck forever. 5 Dreamtaller Drakes and this thing over and over again.
I guess that's
Mwah.
actually +5/+5, isn't it?
Yep, it sure is. +5/+5. I can't
Three of
wait.
which sticks around.
I am drafting, I'm pack one, pick one-ing this. Best believe. Dream Trawler, free from Flesh. Dream Trawler, free from Flesh. Let's go. I just want 6 of each. Call it good.
Are you having like nightmare flashbacks since you keep saying Dream Trawler?
What is it called? It's called Drake Scrap
Trawler Drake.
Trawler. It's the same name. It's like literally the same name. They're so
I
hard
know,
to keep straight.
but you curse Dream Trawler's existence and you like this card.
That's true, but I can't keep them straight. Rating wise, there's 2/2/2 for 1 mana is always like kind of good rate. I'm here for it, even if my deck doesn't have a ton of oil synergies.
Yeah, and you're probably gonna have some, and if you don't, then you've got a mediocre combat trick, which isn't a bad fail case.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a little bit above mediocre, but it's still not impactful enough for me to want to run more than one of them in the average deck. So I'm gonna say it's a
Yep.
2. You can always run one if you've got the room, but there's gonna be a deck where this is gonna be, it's gonna be amazing and it's gonna be fantastic. And every time you cast it, you're gonna feel like $1,000,000.
I mean, I'm probably playing as many of these as I get my hands on if I draft all will be one.
Yes. And if I draft Trawler Drake, my brain just melted down with excitement. All right, Furnace Punisher. We've got a 3/3 for 3 mana with Menace. This is the beginning of each player's upkeep. This deals 2 damage to that player unless they control 2 or more basic lands. What? So this just doesn't...
It's just an eternal format, non-basic land hate.
This is a 3 mana 3/3 with Menace. That seems great. 2/5?
Yeah, it's 2/5.
All right, Furnace Strider, 5 mana for a 4/5. When it enters the battlefield with 2 oil counters on it, you can remove an oil counter. Target creature you control gains haste until end of turn. That's cool. I'm in for this.
Yeah, I think that card's pretty good. You can use one of them on itself if you want when it comes into play.
It doesn't say target other creature, it just says target creature you control.
Yeah, so this can be a 5 mana 4/5 with haste that still keeps a counter for proliferate shenanigans, or
And
just has
continue,
one more.
yeah, continuing to give things haste as you proliferate through. Yeah, that can be
Yeah,
real detriment. Like when your opponent goes haste creature, haste creature, haste creature, that's just game ending.
yeah. Repeatable haste is like for other creatures is a scary ability.
Yeah, absolutely. So rating wise, I mean, it's still, a fine thing. It needs some help. It's an okay top end. So yeah, this is probably like a 2/5.
Yeah, I think so. It might be on the higher end for it, but it's a 2/5.
All right. Gleeful Demolition. 1 mana for a sorcery. It says destroy target artifact. If you controlled that artifact, you can instead create 3/1/1 Phyrexian Goblin creature tokens.
Those things do look gleeful.
They do. That is very true. Um, they look like they're smashing something or ripping something's head off, and they're
Yeah.
very happy about it. Um, Rating wise, sideboard card most of the time.
Yeah. Even in a Phyrexia set where there's a bunch of artifacts, I think this is still a sideboard card because we haven't. It's not like original Mirrodin where Shatter is better than Terror. At least not what we've seen so far.
There are a lot of artifacts, so like borderline playable, and also there's like possible synergy with like the sack deck where you want things in the graveyard and then you make more creatures to sacrifice and stuff as well for more added synergy. So I could definitely see decks where this will be played as a 23rd playable
Yep.
card, but the average deck certainly not.
Yeah, I agree.
Hazardous Blast, 4 damage for a sorcery. Deal 1 damage to each creature your opponent controls. Creatures your opponents can't creatures your opponents control can't block this turn. I actually love these kinds of cards as a one of because I have creatures in my deck. I know you don't, so like you can just sit out for this card if you want. Um,
Well,
but we've
I
seen like Whiplash or whatever it was called. I mean that thing you steal some wins with this.
normally you're right. I hate these cards, but I've been saying in one of the colors, I don't know if it was blue or black, that like, please, for the love of God, give us a deal one or -1 effects with all of the X ones in this format.
Yep, a lot of 2/1s, a lot more than normal, a lot of 3/1s, and just a ton of mites as well as
Yeah.
like a whole mechanic is mites. So the 1 damage might just be enough to like drastically smash your opponent 5 for 1,
Yeah.
or it is flexible in that you could just do the last 7 points of damage that you needed because they have no blockers.
Yeah, definitely. You're right in that I typically don't play these cards, but I'll probably play this one because it might actually be good on both sides.
Yeah, this one definitely is. Rating wise, you still don't want to run a ton of them, so I mean, it's like a 2/5.
Yeah, I think so.
And also, don't feel bad if you're looking for cuts and you cut this and put it in the sideboard. Find out if they have some X1s, then put it back in your deck.
Definitely. Yeah.
Hexgold Halberd. Um, we've got a 2 mana for Mirrodin artifact equipment. Comes into play with a 2/2. Equips it, and as long as it's your turn, equipped creature has first strike and trample. So a 2/2 with first strike and trample for 2 mana is quite good. And then the fact that you can move those keywords from creature to creature for the low cost of only 3 mana, I think that's pretty decent.
Yeah, it feels like a lot for an equip cost that doesn't provide any power boost, but because the body itself is above rate already with those abilities, I'm fine with this card.
Yeah, like I'm playing this card at like a 2/2 with first strike and trample, like we're already playing that pretty highly. So this is just, all gravy. It doesn't matter how
Yeah.
much it costs really. And I
Yeah.
think because of that, the 3 is actually kind of reasonable.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing a lot of the, not all, but a lot of the equip costs on the 4 Mirrodin cards are overpriced for a good reason, because otherwise they'd be too powerful.
Yeah. And even then, I mean, I still feel like they're pretty good value, all things
Yeah.
considered. I mean, for some of them. Some of the Mirrodins were just duds, but like this one's got a lot to offer. So rating wise, I think this is like a 2/5.
Yeah, its initial value almost feels good enough to be a 3, but it's still just probably not impactful enough.
I think it's going to be a 3 when it comes to like Gruul because if the first strike and trample, if your deck is full of like little mites and little shitters that are just not doing things, then it's just a bear with first strike and trample, which is not out of this world. So I think in the Gruul deck, it's going to play up significantly.
I can see that.
So I would say it would play up to like a 3, you think?
Yeah.
Hexgold Slash, 1 mana for deal 2 damage to target creature. If the creature was toxic, it deals 4 damage instead. Okay.
Yep.
I like a shock plus that kills some bigger things. We did see some toxic creatures that were X4s. Yeah. I'm okay with this.
I like this card. Does it just maybe it's just me, or is the art style on this card like way different than the entire rest of the set so far?
Yes, I was looking at that as well. This looks more abstract for sure.
Yeah, I don't dislike it. It's just very kind of a little jarring compared to everything else we've seen.
Agreed. It didn't really keep with the theme.
Yeah. Yeah. Shock. I mean, yes, it can't hit players, but shock in limited is always good. So.
Yep. I mean, this is probably the kind of thing where, you know, until you know if your opponent's playing toxic creatures, you're probably only wanting to play 1 or 2 of these. And then if you pick any more up, keep them in the sideboard. And then obviously side them in very heavily.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, we got Red Planeswalker, Koth Fire of Resistance, 4 mana. Comes in play with 4 loyalty. Doesn't have Phyrexian cost. You can search your library for a basic mountain, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle for +2. Or you can -3. It deals damage to a target creature equal to the number of mountains you control. And for -7, you get an emblem with whenever a mountain enters the battlefield under your control, this emblem deals 4 damage to any target. So let's see, you got to pump him twice to minus him. And then at that point, you have likely 4 or 5 of your mountains in play. And you probably got 9 in your deck if you're like split 2 colors.
Yeah, this is one of the less reliable ultimates.
Yes, I mean, I feel like this ultimate's like basically non-existent. You're just like ultimating him if you have extra, but even then I probably would just save that to try to do 4 damage to extra creatures.
Yeah,
I think I'd rather -3 twice than ever ultimate.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen very often. I guess you could be a spot where you're just, if you play this like later in the game, you could +2, get a mountain in your hand, not play it, do it again, not get a second one in your hand, not play it, and then ultimate, you've got 8 damage in your hand, I guess.
Yeah, but you already have, but you could have played those mountains and you could have -3'd twice and dealt the same amount of damage.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking in like an empty battlefield where this can act. That's the only way this can kill them. But you're right.
Yeah.
That's probably not that likely.
You're right, though, in that the minus only deals damage to the creature, whereas the ultimate can go face. Well, if that's relevant, but like, yeah. I feel like if
that's less likely for sure.
If it's top deck wars and I just have Koth in hand, or Koth on the battlefield, just free rolling lands, I don't know if that's a problem.
Sure.
Rating wise, though, I think overall this feels like kind of one of the weaker planeswalkers. He's going to ETB, he's going to like do 3 or 4 damage, and then he's going to get you a mountain, and then hopefully do 3 more damage. Well, that 4 or 5 more damage then at that point, but still solid, but not as good as like the Wandering Emperor, the same rarity, right?
Wandering Emperor was a mythic.
I don't think so. The Wandering Emperor was the rare in the set. Fairly sure.
Wait, the white, you mean in this set?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Whatever her name is here, I don't know. Yeah,
different. Sorry, I was thinking of the Wandering Emperor from Kamigawa.
No, the new Wandering Emperor.
No, you're right. It's rare in this set.
So, like, compare that rare to this rare, I'm feeling very underwhelmed.
Agreed. That was 6 mana, right? So that's it should be more powerful, but Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that. This is nowhere near as good as that.
So rating wise, what are you thinking?
It's, despite that, I still think it's a 4.
I think I like it as a
Um,
4 as well, because you can miss on the plus and then still just keep nuking things for 3 or 4 damage.
I mean, yeah, you can go plus bolt and kill 2 things, and you've gotten theoretically a land, and you're getting a 3-for-1 out of it, even if this goes away.
Yeah.
And that's pretty strong
Yep.
for 4 mana.
If he survives till that turn, but even if he
Yeah,
just comes down and bolts, I think I'm still pretty happy with that.
yeah, I'd play a 4 mana, removal spell.
It is 4 mana, likely do 3 damage. If it's 4 mana, do 2, and then they kill it, it feels so bad.
Yeah, that feels bad.
All right, Kuldrotha Cackler? I kept wanting to say Crackler. Cackler, 3 mana for a trampling 2/3 that it gets +X+O until end of turn whenever it attacks. And X is equal to the number of permanents you control with oil counters. Okay, so I mean, it's an okay rate on its own. I think every red deck will probably have some oil counters to go about. So it kind of synergizes well and it's within its own color. I think this is a fine card.
Yeah, you only really need this to attack as a 3/3 to be pretty happy for 3 mana.
Yeah, agreed. And that's just got upside, obviously the higher your oil count counter is, the bigger this is going to get. It kind of reminds me of like, we see these sorts of mechanics on red creatures specifically. Like we saw, wasn't it like Volpikit? It was like whenever you cycle, get +2/+0, things like that. Like there's usually
Oh, yeah,
a
yeah,
2/3 for 3 mana with a keyword that that gets a boost every time you do the mechanic for the set. Like that's a recurring cycle that we see every single time.
yeah.
And they're usually synergy oriented, but typically very playable.
Yeah, agreed.
Rating wise,
It's like a 2/5.
2/5 it is. Possibly if your deck has no synergy, it's probably like a 2 with the
Yeah.
ability to play up to a 2/5, I guess.
Yeah, if your deck has, 0 to 3 permanents.
Volpikit was white. She's talking about the prickly
Yeah.
marmoset. There you go. Thank you, chat. It's a game that we always play. Nerd Girl tries to describe the card, and then you try to figure out what the card is. It's a recurring theme in this channel. I suck at names, and I suck at like where things were. So I'll just like try to like, oh, it looked like this, and it kind of did this thing, and you have to like go throughout Magic's history and figure it out. And you're very good at that game. All right, magmatic. Why can't I speak today? Ouch. Sprinter, 3 mana for a 2/3 with haste. A lot of abilities on these like, vanilla costed creatures. That says whenever it enters the battlefield, put 2 counters on target artifact you control. At the beginning of your end step, return this to its owner's hand unless you remove those oil counters. This works so good with all will be for 1 or whatever.
Yes.
Wow. So you could just recast it over and over again and continue getting the oil counters. You never have to remove them. And it has haste, so it still attacks. It costs you a bunch of mana, but it is infinite oil counters.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. It's got no booty, so it doesn't attack super well.
Yeah, and not that this is going to matter too much, but it's not a May ability, so if you cast it with nothing else to target, you have to put him on it.
But that's okay, because then you can just remove them and keep your creature.
Yeah. I said it's not a problem. It's just a little less if you're trying to repeatedly cast it for whatever reason. I guess you could still return it to your hand.
You could still just choose not to remove the counters.
Yeah, you're right. You could just decline that. So yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so rating wise, I mean, this is a very synergistic card, and I think it's fine on its own. It's gonna have like just some random synergy with no matter what your deck is playing. I think, you'll have a thing or two that wants these oil counters anyway, so probably a 2/5.
Yeah, I think 2/5 sounds about right for this.
And then in the one deck that really, or not one deck at this point, 2 or 3 decks that really, really, really want to be working with these oil counters, it's going to play up super big and sort of enable all your other stuff. Like with
Yeah,
my
there's
Drake.
yes, especially with your Drake.
All right, choose one or both 5 mana for a sorcery speed, deal 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker, or you can destroy an equipment. That's kind of neat. I feel like most of the time I want to kill something. Equipments are, always on the smaller side because a huge chunk of what you're spending your mana for on the equipment is the creature they come with. But I think this is okay.
Yeah, I mean we've seen this before. Like it was a little different, but on original Dominaria, it was destroy target artifact, which is obviously better. Um, yeah, 5 mana, 5 damage is fine. You don't want too many of them
Mm-mm.
in your deck, but you're always going to play the first one.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely found myself sometimes not playing them in the last set. Um, whatever the Brothers War, there was one, but that one wasn't as flexible as this either.
Yeah,
They're usually like a
I don't-
2/5. This might be a 3 because of the double-sided stuff.
yeah, and the equipment has seemed pretty relevant so far. So
Yep.
I'm fine to use this to kill that flying equipment, the +2/+2 and uh, haste flying thing.
Absolutely. 2/5 you like?
Yep.
All right, Nahiri's Sacrifice, 2 for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this, sacrifice an artifact or creature with mana value X. Then it says Nahiri's Sacrifice, deal X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures. Okay, so you sack a 6-drop and you get to divide 6 damage as you choose. It's sorcery speed, so that's poopy.
Yeah, I don't love this card, but at least you can get a 2 for 2 out of it, as opposed to some versions of this where you can only hit one thing.
Yeah. But I feel like you're going to be trading down massively.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. Although, I mean, there are some. We saw like an artifact, right, that needed oil counters to work, so maybe you've run out of them, and you can sacrifice that or something under an enchantment lockdown. I'm not excited for this card, but I think it's playable.
There's also some things that might want to be sacrificed in the
Yeah.
Rakdos version, like your little rat or whatever. But then you're just not doing a ton of damage. This just feels awkward. But I mean, sometimes flings are okay, but I would really want this thing to be an instant before I got any level of excitement out of it. So I could be way off on this, but my instinct is to not play it in the average deck.
Yeah, I think I'll play it more often than not in the average deck, but not all the time.
Okay. So I'm thinking like I'm a 1/5/2. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think I have it at a 2.
All right, so probably about like a quarter point off.
Yeah, like I'm not upset to put this in my deck, really ever, but I'm never gonna be thrilled.
All right, the Oxida Finisher, a lot of mana, 7 for an Ogre Rebel 7/5. And it has affinity for artifacts, and it has trample. Okay, well, I guess if I have a lot of artifacts and I can sack this idiot to do the thing, then maybe.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Um,
No, note that this is specifically affinity for equipment.
oh, I didn't even see that. I just saw affinity and my brain filled in the rest.
Goes right to artifact, yeah.
Yeah, my brain was just like affinity for artifacts. That's what that sentence says. Moving on. Yeah, this card is for exactly one deck. It's got only 5 booties, so it's not great. 7's pretty high, but it has trample. So I would play this if my deck had 4 equipment.
Yeah, I think 3 to 4, depending on what else you had at the top of your curve.
Like if you're consistently getting a discount for this and it's 6 mana, then I think this is okay as a top end.
Yeah, I think that's right. 6 mana, we play like 6 mana 6/6 tramplers, so 6 mana 7/5 is it's different, but it's not drastically different.
Yeah. Do you remember when Dreadmaw was fine? Just a 6 mana 6/6 and nothing.
Yeah, it was fine for like 12 sets in a row.
Yeah. Rating wise, I think this is a 2.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And then
It's
just not playable when you're not in the artifact or equipment business.
Yeah, agreed.
Rebel Salvo, 3 mana for an instant affinity for equipments. Deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. That permanent loses indestructible until end of turn. Get it? Holy shiitake mushrooms. This obliterates all the dominoes.
Yes. Yeah, this card's great.
What are you laughing at me for? This is why do we
Just
even
that
need affinity for equipment?
I'm laughing at Domino's.
What is it? What are they called?
I don't know, but I doubt it's pizza.
I thought they were like called like
I think Dominus is all of them. I don't know what the plural.
Dominus.
Maybe it might be Domino's. Who knows? It just sounded
Eh,
funny.
Dominus is like,
Domini.
makes more sense, I guess. That's the like
Well, it's like octopus, so maybe it's Domini or Dominuses.
well, Dominus was like the Roman word for like a male master?
That sounds like that could
Right?
be what that is in Latin.
Am I the only one in this channel who's seen Spartacus?
Dominus is the Latin word for master or owner.
Dang, got him. Period pieces coming into play hard. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so there you go. So yeah, that's what the word is. That makes sense. But domino, whatever, it's fine. Anyway, rating wise, 3 mana. Scratch the entire first part there. 3 mana for an instant speed 5 damage. Yeah, this is insanely good. This is great removal, and it kills the entire mythic cycle in the set that we want it to kill. So fantastic.
Yeah, there's nothing in any way not to like about this card.
Easy first pick. This will get picked over most rares for me.
Yeah.
I mean, red has seemed a little on the poopy side, so maybe I'm a little hesitant, but yeah, this is still fantastic. Splashable removal, easy game. Our premium removal is usually a 4. I want to give this higher just because I love it, but
So do I.
it's realistically still only just a 4.
Yeah, because in my head I'm like, well, if this didn't say affinity for equipment and it didn't say loses indestructible, I think we'd still give it a 4. But that's still probably not enough to make it a 4/5.
Yeah, because at the end you're probably you're still average killing just like a 4/4 with it, so
Yeah,
it's not like impacting the game in that way to win you the game. So, all right, Red Sun's Twilight, X red red for a sorcery, destroy up to X artifacts. If X was 5 or more, for each artifact destroyed this way, create a token that's a copy of it. Those tokens gain haste. Exile them at the beginning of the next end step. So sideboard.
Yeah, there's a decent amount of mites and artifact creatures and equipment in this set, but not enough to justify the cost on this in your main deck.
Yep. It's gonna be cute when you bring it in against the artifact deck and you just like blow up their entire board with a one-sided wrath, and that'll feel like $1 million.
Yeah.
So we're gonna say that is I'm gonna give it a 1/5. Like there's a lot of artifacts in this set, so like it's probably gonna find a target. 3 mana destroy an artifact.
Yeah.
With some
Yeah,
upside if they
worst.
happen. So if you're short on playables, throw it in there.
Yeah.
Resistance Sky Warden. 5 mana for a 5/5 menace with reach. Great. That seems pretty fine.
Is this our so far leading candidate for Sneaky Reach?
Yeah, this is Sneaky Reach for sure. He's got the little weird armored vagina flap thing that I never understand. Yeah, Sneaky Reach. I think this is a 2/5.
Yeah, I think so too.
Sawblade Scamp. 1 mana for a 1/1 with haste. It's a Phyrexian beast. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put an oil counter on it. You can tap or remove an oil counter, and it deals 1 damage to each opponent. I'm here for this. It fuels itself. It's great with proliferate, and you just keep booping them every turn. I like these little inevitable boops. I usually like them with a little booty attached, but here we are.
Yeah, this card's fine. It's only going in like one deck.
Yeah,
And in
agreed.
that deck, it'll be okay.
All right, Shrapnel Slinger, 2 mana. Oh, rating wise, I think it's like a 1/5 in the average deck.
Yeah, and you'll know when you want it.
Shrapnel Slinger, 2 mana for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, destroy target artifact and opponent controls. Bear with some upside.
Yep,
2.
pretty good upside, but yeah, still a 2.
It's very flexible. Slow Bad Iron Goblin. Cool. 3 mana for a 3/3. You can tap, sacrifice an artifact, add an amount of red mana equal to the sacrifice artifact's mana value. Spend this mana only to cast artifact spells and activate abilities. Very highly synergistic. I don't know that I'm going to want a ton of mana to sink into big artifacts anyway, so this is just a 3/3 for 3 for me.
Yeah, it's gotta just be, unless there's some sort of, maybe get some artifacts that want to be sacrificed. You could get something out of this, but yeah, it's mostly just a vanilla 3 mana 3/3 in limited.
With no abilities, I mean, probably just going to call this a 2.
Yeah, 2 and move on.
All right. The Solfim Mayhem Dominus, 4 mana for a 5/4. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals double the damage to that player instead, or the permanent. And then for 3 or 1 and some Phyrexian mana, you can discard 2 and put an indestructible counter on it. This discard 2 is quite expensive, and then you're gonna do it, and then they're just gonna blow you up with that uncommon spell, and you're gonna cry yourself to sleep. But that said, the ability is pretty cool. It feels a little bit more constructed because a lot of times it's hard to get a lot of burn spells and things that do non-combat damage. But like, what about that little pinger we just saw? That'd be kind of cute.
I mean, all you need is Solfim and all will be 1. 2 mythics, and you're good.
Yeah, great. Oh, then you need a bunch of proliferating oil counters, but yes.
Well, yeah, that's beside the point.
Neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But yes, there's also like a bunch of little weird things that you can just get that kind of also do it. There was the drainer, that's not going to work, but like the little pinger we just saw, burn spells. I mean, either way, it's still a 5/4 for 4 mana that you can possibly make indestructible. So it's being played. And then there's high upside if you have the synergy for it. I'm thinking 4.
I'm a little lower on it. It's still good. I 4 mana 5/4, but there are going to be some decks where this ability does nothing.
Yeah, I'm kind of banking, like my 4 rating is based on having 2 or 3 things that will, like, a burn spell, you know what I mean? Something that does something. Like, if you have a couple of shocks in your deck, this is kind of fine. It doesn't need to be a ton of synergy, but I'm just kind of saying the average deck has 2 or 3 things.
Yeah, I mean, the card's still very good. I'm just a little low. I think I've got it like a 3/5.
Fair enough. Pretty close. Thrill of Possibility. I love the new art on this. 2 mana, additional cast, discard a card, draw 2 cards. Always fine. Great in the Is It Spells deck. 23rd playable card that you can cut super easy.
Yeah, even though I know these type of cards are fine, I feel like I never play them. Maybe just because we get so many more playables nowadays.
Yeah, I feel like I used to play them a lot more, and I'm definitely playing them a lot less. I felt like when there was a lot more chaff, part of good deck building was implementing tools like this that could help you cycle through, as opposed to just playing bad creatures and stuff. And now we just don't need to anymore because everything is pretty high quality. So there's going to be a deck that wants things in graveyards. There's going to be a deck that wants spells to be cast a lot with the Is It deck stuff. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, do a thing. This will be a premium target for that. And also, it's just kind of okay in your like Boros deck as a 23rd playable when you've got no draw spells, right? To kind of just late game help you redraw one of the lands that you've bricked on kind of feels good. But again, 23rd playable.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll give it a 2. Urabrask's Anointer, 4 mana for a 4/2 Phyrexian wizard. When it enters the battlefield, it deals X damage to any target where X is the number of permanents you control with oil counters on it. It doesn't come into play with an oil counter itself, which is a little bit disappointing, but very synergistic card. It's a split rating. It's like a 1-3? Maybe even a 1-3-5.
Yeah, kind of like the 2-3 we saw earlier with the +X+O effect. Like this sort of red 3 to red 4/2 that deals X on ETB equal to something relevant in the set feels to be like you had the Kaldheim one for creature types in a format with changelings. Like they kind of all feel like toned down versions of Flame Tongue Kavus.
Yeah, I remember this type of effect for the giants in Kaldheim.
Yep.
But
yeah,
the difference is like it counted itself. This one
Yep.
doesn't.
Yeah,
right?
this is. Yeah, I think this is worse than that one, for sure, because there are times it's 0, but
Well, yes and no. I feel like there's a lot more things in this set with oil counters on them than there were giants, right? So the upside on this is high, and the downside is a little bit lower, but it's only by 1 damage. Is that a thing we really care about? Maybe the upside is just so much higher than we should be giving this a lot more credit.
yeah. Yeah, it could be. I mean, Kaldheim had changelings, so that helped, but
True. But I was still never triggering it for more than like 3.
no, that you're right. It was never a crazy number.
It was usually like 1 to 3, whereas this feels like it's going to be like 0 to 7.
Yeah, and it's any target. I don't remember if that was or not, so it can go face.
I'm going to have to see how the format plays, but I think, at first thought, I was just like, nah. But now that I'm thinking about it, I think there just might be enough oil counters to where this is just good.
Yeah, and it's probably just play it most of the time anyway, because it's as long as you have a couple things in your deck, because a format of 4/2 is not the end of the world. It's not good by any means.
If your
But
deck can consistently make this a shock on ETB, I think we're
yeah,
very happy.
yeah, I agree with that.
So you probably need like 6 oil counters in your deck,
Yeah, that's
which
probably a good number.
is
Doesn't seem
probably
hard in red.
not that
Doesn't seem
hard.
hard in red.
Yeah. So red blue, this will be fantastic. And then we'll see how the other colors pair up on this. So rating wise, I'm gonna hedge a little bit. I'm gonna say this is like a 2-5 as an average. It's gonna play up or down. I could see
Yeah,
this
it's a
being
2.
very good.
It feels like it's a 2/5 that's either going to be like a 3/5 or not in your deck.
Yes,
But
exactly.
it's probably a 2/5, or at least it shouldn't be in your deck. It will still end up in some of those decks.
Yep. Urabrask's Forge. We have 3 mana for an artifact. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, put an oil counter on Urabrask's Forge. When then create X1 red Phyrexian horror creature token with trample and haste, where X is the number of oil counters on Urabrask's Forge. Sacrifice the token at the beginning of the end step. Okay, so it's kind of neat. It makes something progressively larger each turn that gets haste. So it's just going to keep running into a wall until it's trading with things, and or you're using it in the Rakdos Sacrifice deck. This seems dope.
Yeah, it's slow, but it's good, and it does have some synergies both with oil counters and sacrifice, which is nice.
Yep. So it's going to make a 1/1 with haste, a 2/1 with haste, a 3/1 with haste. And by the time you get to turn 3 or 4 with this thing out on the board, your opponent has to kind of do something about it. Their mites can't block it.
And they all have trample too.
Yeah. This actually feels like that skeleton card. Do you know what I'm talking about? The red or the green black one that just like kept skeletoning.
Yeah, the one that I thought wasn't good, and I was very, very wrong.
Oh, I don't remember that, but I'll take your word for it.
Or I didn't think was as good as it was. I don't think I thought it was bad, but I was definitely wrong.
I think this card is very, very fine. I think there's a lot of synergy here, and also it itself is slow, but 3 turns to turn into a real big threat real quick. I'm willing to give this like a 4.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I want to say 3/5, but it does just keep getting bigger and bigger, and that's scary. And the fact that you have the oil counter synergies plus the sacrifice synergies probably make it worth it to be a 4. It's probably just enough going on there.
All right. Vindictive Flame Stoker. We have a 1-mana 1/2 Phyrexian wizard that says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put an oil counter on it, and for 7 mana, sacrifice it, discard your hand, and draw 4 cards. This ability costs 1 less to cast for each oil counter on it. 1 mana 1/2, which blocks mites. I'm kind of here for it. And then you cast 2 or 3 spells throughout the game, non-creature. Let's say 3. So now this is 4 mana, draw 4 once your hand is depleted.
It's a 1-drop they kind of need to kill.
Yeah, 4 cards is a lot.
Yeah.
And if you need to block a 2/3, then you do it.
Yeah.
Now, it is a rare, so it's not like exciting for a rare, but this is great value.
Yeah, I think I like this card a lot.
I'm here for this. I think this is like a 3/5.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Volt Charge, 3 mana for an instant, deals 3 damage to any target, plus a proliferate. Oh my god, it's Lightning Helix. This card's amazing. I'm so high on proliferate, I just can't help it. I just can't help it, Yanks. I'm sorry.
I think Proliferate's going to be good, and I have a feeling that a format where Proliferate is as good as it's going to be is not going to be what I'm going to enjoy.
That might be true, but like I can't wait to proliferate things. Here's the thing. I actually didn't like proliferate before because I hated amask tokens, and I thought it was the proliferate that I wasn't liking, but I think it was just the amask tokens. So I think I'm happy here. I think this is my happy place.
Yeah, Proliferate is the kind of snowballing mechanic that I don't enjoy.
But for me, it's like snowbally. It's like I've created a mountain of trash, and I'm gonna like slowly roll it down the hill, and it's gonna take you and hit you in the face. And that I like. That's the kind of magic I enjoy when people are playing big bombs, and that is like the thing that wins games. I don't want that to be the decisive thing. I want to like eke out value slowly over turns and then kill somebody. So you might not be in your happy place, but I'm in my happy place. Rating wise, what are you thinking, Yikes?
This is probably just a 4. Hits anything. Proliferate's a good
Instant.
bonus, so yeah, instant speed.
Premium removal. Mwah. Man, there's a lot of U's and V's. I keep thinking this has got to be the last card, and it's not.
This is the last card.
Bullshock Splitter, a 4 mana equipment for Mirrodin. Make a 2/2. It gets +2/+0, and you can equip for 3. This is one of the less exciting red equipments that we've seen.
Yeah, you get 4 mana 4/2, which you're okay with, but not thrilled.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Rating wise, it's probably just a 2.
Yeah, it's filler unless I really want equipment for some reason.
Yeah, this is like the first one where I feel like the creature itself is like already not a great rate. It's a 4/2 for 4. Like, no, thank you. The fact, and I would not normally play that. I've been passing those up in sets for the last few years now. But because you can have the option to move around that extra toughness later, I'm going to call it filler.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
All right, Yanks, moment of truth. What do you think of red? How's it looking?
It seems pretty good. It doesn't seem crazy aggressive, which is good, but it does seem pretty all around solid.
It seemed more synergistic than I was expecting for red. There was a lot less just like, beat things down. There was a lot of like proliferate synergies with the oil counters and stuff, and a lot like of spell synergies. The creatures themselves seemed like trash. Like so far, it's when it comes to the creature count, it's by far the thing I'm the least impressed with, which is kind of normal for red.
Yeah, because a lot of them are just unimpressive, but great for just swarming things.
Yep. And the other thing is that the creatures all seemed a little bit worse, but better in a synergy deck. So I feel like red is very much going to be you get there or you bust. And there's not a lot of things. Like, sometimes you just get like a Selesnya deck and you're just like, oh, this is nothing special, but you get 5 or 6 wins and it's fine. Because you just have like solid dudes. Red is not going to be like that. I think it's going to be you have all your synergies or you're going to like just scrub out.
Yeah, which makes for an interesting draft environment because there could be several red decks at the table and you don't want the same cards. I mean, everybody wants Vault Charge and Rebel Salvo, but the removal spells, but you may be wanting very different creatures from each other.
Yeah, I agree with that. So overall, I'm interested to see how red plays out. Yanks, rating wise, how you liking red compared to the other colors so far?
I think so far I feel like I've liked white the best.
Okay.
And then it's kind of even between blue and red, and I'm a little down on black.
All right. I think I liked. Man, I kind of don't remember, but
That's why I'm like hedging my bet. Like I think that's what I like.
I think I'm leaning towards like white always plays worse than it feels. Do you know what I mean? Like it's been getting better, but like white is usually one of the weaker colors. So
Yeah.
I feel like I liked white a bunch, but it was very heavy artifact synergy, and I didn't feel that blue had the payoffs to sort of back it up. So I'm gonna go blue as number 1. And then I'm gonna go black, actually. So I'm gonna put white and red here, tied for last place of the two.
Yeah, I can see that. I agree with you on the artifact stuff in blue white, but I think the other white decks look pretty good.
Yeah, I think so too. That said, I still think they're all pretty, balanced. So these, minor things are, neither here nor there. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think any of this is a Midnight Hunt blue black or a Battle for Zendikar green that was completely unplayable.
Absolutely.
We're not talking anything like that.
All right, Yanks, thanks for joining us, and I'll see you
Anytime.
tomorrow for green.
Sounds good.
All right, have a good night. Thank
Good
you
night.
guys so much for watching, and don't forget to leave us a comment and let us know what you thought of red and the rest of the set so far. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.